Welcome to A Little More with Lynn. I'm Lynn Griefor, Vice President of Philanthropy and the Chief Experience Officer at McLaren Greater Lansing. At A Little More with Lynn, we talk a little bit with our donors, our sponsors, our volunteers, and today with some of our employees, because this week we are celebrating Nurses Week, and we're going to talk with some nurses about what they do at McLaren, kind of how they got there, and a little bit about their story. Today, I am very excited to introduce you to Christy Acevedo. She is a registered nurse with McLaren Greater Lansing, and she is our very first Nurses Week guest. So welcome, Christy.
Thank you for having me.
And happy Nurses Week.
Happy Nurses Week. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you start maybe just telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into nursing, things that you've done, and what you're doing now.
Sure. I grew up in the Lansing area, small town outside of between Lansing, Flint. And I've always said that I've had a servant's heart and with a love for science and math and just continuing to learn. I didn't really put the pieces together that nursing was the right fit for me until I was about 2021. So I made a little shift, but I graduated from Lansing Community College, and then I went on for my bachelor's at Michigan State. And right after graduation, I did a couple of different things. I did some home care. So I worked for a home care agency, and then I worked for a health and wellness program where we would travel around to different businesses, do these little mini health assessments. I did some food clinics, and then I started at McLaren in 2014 as a bedside nurse in the float pool. So I got to go around to different inpatient units and learned a lot in that role. And then I transitioned just about a year ago to something called clinical documentation improvement, which is obviously detailed, and I won't take the time to go over all of the ins and outs, but basically, I say that every patient that comes to the hospital, they have a story. And what we do is we look at physician charting and look to see if that story is being accurately reflected in what's being charted.
Interesting. One of the things I really love and admire about the nursing profession is there's such a wide range of things that you can do. And you, as you demonstrated, you've kind of, gone in a couple different areas. What do you find most rewarding and then also most challenging about the nursing profession?
Rewarding, I think, is just connecting with people. I still consider myself a little shy and reserved, but even more so before nursing. And I think that really pushed me to get out of that. You connect with so many different people in some of their most vulnerable time. And so you really form those relationships and unexpected relationships, really. And I think just learning something every single day, even if you think, oh, I'm going to have such and such a day, well, it might turn out a lot differently. And then I think a big challenge that I struggled with was I think as nurses you want to help and you want to fix things, and sometimes you can't fix it, and so it's kind of shifting your mindset to thinking, okay, well, what can I do? And sometimes I would get somebody a cup of coffee or a warm blanket, or just being a presence. You don't even have to say anything, but just simply being there. And shifting out of bedside, I'm actively still trying to find what does my role look like in helping, and realizing that, like you mentioned, there's so many opportunities, and what you can do to help may look different, but it's out there if you look for it.
Yeah, and I love how you describe your current role as telling a patient's story. And you could say charting or reviewing charts, but
right.
Really that's the case. You're telling a story and making sure that their experience is reflected, which I think is a great connection to the helping piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it goes without saying, Christy, that the last several years have been a challenge for everyone, in particular the healthcare industry, but all of us, the pandemic. During the pandemic, you were working bedside, which I'm sure was a challenge. You were caring for your own family, and you were also carrying a child with a very special story. And I'm wondering if you can kind of talk about that story and maybe even just how your role as a nurse or your passion for nursing played into that story.
Sure, absolutely. It's interesting because sometimes I find it difficult to talk about it just because it's so intense, and then sometimes I like go on and on and on about it. So, but but yeah, it was unforgettable. I reconnected with a friend from high school after not talking with her for 10 years, and we reconnected the end of 2019, and I learned more about her story and what she was going through. And she was in need of a gestational surrogate. And I had that placed on my heart quite a few years ago. The opportunity presented itself, and things just didn't go as planned during that time. So 2019 came around and we started that process, which was, I mean, understandably an intense process, but we had no idea we would be dealing with a pandemic on top of all of that. Yeah. So, but my faith got me started in the journey, and I leaned very hard into that during it all. And I just told myself one day at a time, and that was just over a year and a half ago that she was born.
Wonderful. It's an incredible story, even if it's not in the middle of a pandemic, but as you
Right.
said, extra special and extra few things that you had to deal with and work through. So it really, and I know everyone in McLaren has celebrated you and what you gave and what you did. And it's a great story.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I think about every single day, and I know 2020 was extremely difficult, and I respect that, and I also know that it brought great joy, and I've gained lifelong friends, and it's really, yeah, near and dear to my heart.
Wonderful. Well, as we said at the beginning of the segment, it is Nurses Week. And I was just wondering, what does the celebration of Nurses Week mean to you?
Well, I think nurses, there are many things to many different people. Nursing is just one thing that we do. It's kind of like a dysfunctional family in the best way possible. But these are people that you share triumphs and defeats, and you have this unspoken bond. And it's really powerful, and they just kind of get it, no matter what area you're involved in, how long you've been a nurse, where you come from. It's just something that you just come together, and you can laugh about things, you can cry about things. And I'm really proud to be a nurse, and it's special that we can be recognized and honored this week, but really always too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am wondering if you have any advice or words of wisdom for a young person or not young
Mhm.
who might be considering nursing as a profession.
Sure. I think something that I tried to do starting that I didn't do a great job of, but now looking back, is kind of really just reflecting on yourself and really kind of getting to know yourself, and what are you looking for? What makes you happy? And likely there's something in nursing that fits that, but it's really just kind of taking some self-reflection before just kind of diving right in, and realizing that you're going to be pushed out of what maybe you're comfortable with, and it's good, it's a good thing. You're growing, evolving. Nursing is always changing and making improvements, and I think it's important to be okay with that, and kind of jumping on board with it. And I like to remember why do you want to be a nurse? I think most people have a reason. There's something that they were drawn to nursing, and when it does get overwhelming, or maybe you don't think that you made the right choice, just to hold on to that, because those feelings that you have, it won't always be that way.
Yeah, remembering your why. I think that's great advice for all of us when we're having difficult times.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, Christy, thank you for all you do for our community. Thank you for celebrating Nurses Week with us. It was great talking to you and learning a little bit more about your story.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching A Little More with Lynn. Please stay tuned later this week. We've got a couple more Nurses Week celebrations coming your way. So thank you.